Have you ever had a conversation where the words felt right, but something in your gut screamed that you were being lied to? Or have you met someone for the first time and felt an instant, unexplainable connection or a sense of deep distrust? That feeling isn't magic. It's your brain processing a torrent of information that flies completely under the radar of conscious thought. Albert Mehrabian, a pioneer researcher of body language, found that in a face-to-face conversation, our words, the things we so carefully choose, account for only 7% of the total message's impact. 38% comes from the tone of our voice, and a staggering 55% comes from our nonverbal signals, our posture, our gestures, our facial expressions. This means that over 90% of what we're all communicating is happening in a silent, unspoken conversation. We are all broadcasting our true thoughts, feelings, and intentions constantly. The problem is, 99% of us are completely illiterate in this silent language. We hear the words, but we miss the story. This video is your Rosetta Stone. It's a masterclass in decoding the hidden signals that people around you are sending out every second. You will learn to see the truth when words are designed to deceive. You'll learn to build rapport when connection seems impossible. You will learn to navigate the world not just by hearing, but by seeing. By the end of this journey, you will possess a new level of clarity, a quiet confidence that comes from understanding the unspoken conversation. Welcome to the world beyond words. To understand why nonverbal cues are so reliable, we need to take a quick journey inside the human brain. Think of your brain as having 3 layers, an idea popularized by neuroscientist Paul MacLean as the triune brain. The oldest part is the reptilian brain, responsible for our survival instincts. Wrapped around that is the limbic brain. This is the honest brain. It's the seat of our emotions. It reacts to the world in real time, instantly, and without thought. When you feel a flash of fear, a surge of joy, or a pang of sadness, that's your limbic system at work. It has one job: to ensure your survival and well-being by generating an immediate, honest emotional response to your environment. It cannot be faked. The newest, outermost layer is the neocortex. This is the thinking brain, the logical brain. It's where language, reason, and abstract thought reside. It's also the lying brain. When someone wants to deceive you, it's the neocortex that crafts the careful words, the plausible story. Here's the crucial conflict. When a person tries to lie, their neocortex is saying one thing, but their limbic brain is feeling another. And that honest emotional response, the stress, the guilt, the fear of being caught, leaks out through the body. The body, governed by the limbic system, simply cannot lie. A fleeting grimace, a slight shift in posture, a foot that points to the exit, these are fragments of the truth escaping the censorship of the thinking brain. Our job is to learn how to spot them. But before you can spot the lie, you must first understand the truth. This brings us to the single most critical skill in reading people: establishing a baseline. A baseline is how a person behaves when they are calm, relaxed, and not under any stress. It's their normal. Does your colleague naturally fidget with their pen? Is your boss someone who rarely makes direct eye contact? Does your friend always talk with their hands? This is all baseline behavior. It means nothing on its own. The mistake amateurs make is assigning a fixed meaning to a single gesture. They read a pop psychology article that says crossed arms mean defensiveness. So they see a coworker with crossed arms and immediately think, he's closed off to my idea. But what if it's just cold in the room? What if that's how he always sits when he's concentrating? Without a baseline, you're just guessing. To establish a baseline, you need to be an observer. During casual, low-stakes conversations, watch how people behave. How do they sit? What's their normal blink rate? What are their go-to hand gestures? How does their voice sound when they're talking about something neutral, like the weather or what they had for lunch? Store this information away. Only when you know someone's baseline can you spot the meaningful deviations. When the normally still person starts fidgeting or the normally fidgety person suddenly freezes, that's when your attention should perk up. A deviation from the baseline is a signal that something has changed internally. An emotional shift has occurred. The limbic brain has reacted to something, and the body is talking. Finally, we must destroy the myth of a single tell. There is no single gesture that proves someone is lying, interested, or angry. Pinocchio's nose doesn't exist in the real world. Instead of looking for a single clue, you must look for clusters of cues. A cluster is a group of nonverbal signals that all happen around the same time and point towards the same emotional state. For example, a person says, "I'm completely confident in this decision," but as they say it, they break eye contact, touch their neck, a pacifying gesture, and their voice goes up in pitch. That's a cluster. The words say confidence, but the three nonverbal cues all scream uncertainty and stress. One cue is an anomaly. A cluster is a story. Case study: the job interview. Imagine you're interviewing two candidates. Candidate A, I'll call him John, sits with his arms crossed. You, remembering the pop psychology article, flag him as defensive. Candidate B, I'll call her Sarah, sits with open arms, smiling. You feel she's more open. But you're smarter now. You spent the first 5 minutes making small talk to establish a baseline. You notice John naturally crosses his arms when listening intently. It's his thinking pose. Sarah, however, while smiling, is tapping her foot rapidly under the table, and her blink rate is significantly higher than it was during the initial small talk. When you ask John a tough question, his posture remains the same, but he leans forward, fully engaged. When you ask Sarah the same question, her smile tightens, she clears her throat, and her hand briefly touches her collarbone. That's a cluster of stress signals. Her baseline of calm has been shattered. Who is truly more comfortable and confident? The one whose nonverbal signals are consistent with his baseline, even if they look closed off to the untrained eye. You've just moved from guessing to diagnosing. Remember the foundation. The body is the billboard of the limbic brain. Your first job is to establish a baseline, and your goal is to spot clusters of cues that deviate from that baseline. Master this, and you've already surpassed 99% of people in your ability to understand others.
With our foundation laid, let's begin our head-to-toe journey through the encyclopedia of nonverbal signals. We'll start with the most expressive part of our body, the face. The face, a theater of emotion. Our faces can produce thousands of expressions, but the most important ones for reading people are the ones they can't control. These are micro-expressions. Discovered by researchers Paul Ekman and Wallace Friesen, a micro-expression is an involuntary flash of a genuine emotion that lasts for a fraction of a second, sometimes as little as 1/25th of a second, before our conscious brain can suppress it and put on a social mask. They are windows into a person's true feelings. There are 7 universal micro-expressions recognized across every culture on Earth. Surprise, eyebrows raised and curved, eyes widened, mouth agape. It's a brief reset of the face as it takes in new information. Fear, eyebrows raised and pulled together, upper eyelids raised, mouth stretched horizontally. It's the look of bracing for impact. Disgust, the nose is wrinkled and the upper lip is raised. It's an instinctual reaction to something toxic, whether a bad smell or a repulsive idea. Anger, the eyebrows are lowered and drawn together. The eyes glare and the lips are narrowed or pressed firmly together. The face tenses, ready for a fight. Happiness. This is the most faked emotion, but a genuine smile, the Duchenne smile, is impossible to fake on command. It involves not just the corners of the mouth turning up, but also the muscles around the eyes crinkling, creating crow's feet. A smile without the eyes is just a social courtesy. Sadness. The inner corners of the eyebrows are drawn up, the eyelids droop, and the corners of the lips are pulled down. Contempt. This is the only asymmetrical expression. One corner of the mouth is raised in a slight smirk. It's the universal sign for, I am better than you. It is a massive red flag in any relationship, personal or professional. Spotting these requires practice. Watch news interviews with the sound off. When a politician denies an accusation, look for a flash of contempt, a flicker of fear, or the tension of anger. You'll be stunned at what you see. Beyond micro-expressions, the eyes are profoundly revealing. When we are interested or aroused, our pupils dilate to let in more light, more information. Conversely, they constrict when we see something unpleasant. Our blink rate also tells a story. A normal blink rate is about 15 to 20 times per minute. Under stress, this can increase dramatically. A sudden, rapid-fire succession of blinks is like a neurological fire alarm. On the other hand, a person trying to consciously control their behavior might deliberately slow their blink rate, which can look unnatural and forced. Finally, watch for eye blocking. This is any behavior that covers the eyes, from a full hand-to-face cover to a prolonged, slow blink. It's a primal, limbic response to hearing or seeing something we don't like. It's the brain's way of saying, I don't want to see this. If you tell someone bad news and they block their eyes, it's a genuine signal of distress. The upper body, the billboard of confidence and comfort. Moving down, we reach the hands and arms. Our hands are our second most expressive feature after our face. When people are comfortable and confident, their hand gestures are fluid and congruent with their words. But when they're stressed, they engage in pacifying gestures. These are repetitive, self-soothing behaviors. Think of a person rubbing their hands together, touching their neck, stroking their arm, or adjusting their collar. Famed FBI profiler Joe Navarro calls these pacifiers, and they are reliable indicators of anxiety. The brain is saying, this is stressful, and the body is trying to calm itself. Watch for steepling, where someone brings their fingertips together to form a church steeple. This is a universal signal of high confidence in one's thoughts. Lawyers, politicians, and executives use it instinctively when they are certain of their position. Conversely, when hands are hidden, tucked in pockets, held behind the back, it can signal a lack of confidence, or in some contexts, deception. The limbic brain associates open hands with honesty and hidden hands with danger. The torso acts as a compass. We instinctively point our torso and feet towards what we like and are interested in, a concept called ventral fronting. If you're in a group conversation and someone's torso and feet are angled away from you, they are psychologically checking out, no matter how much they smile and nod. A partial shoulder shrug is also highly significant. A full shrug involving both shoulders signals genuine uncertainty. But a small one-sided shrug that accompanies a statement of confidence is a major leak of doubt. It's the body betraying the words. The lower body is the kingdom of honesty. Joe Navarro famously states that the farther a body part is from the head, the more honest it is. Why? Because we are socially conditioned to control our faces and even our hands, but nobody ever told us to stop fidgeting with your feet. The legs and feet are often on autopilot, driven directly by the limbic brain. The direction of the feet is arguably the most honest intention cue. If you're talking to someone and their feet are pointed towards the door, they want to leave. Their limbic brain is already heading for the exit. Watch for this in networking events. You can instantly tell who is genuinely engaged and who's looking for their next conversation. Happy feet, the wiggling or bouncing of feet, is a sign of genuine excitement and confidence. When someone gets good news or feels they have the upper hand in a negotiation, their feet will often start to dance. Conversely, when feet are locked together, wrapped around a chair leg or pulled back under the chair, it signals insecurity, stress, or a freeze response. The person feels trapped or threatened. Case study: the high-stakes negotiation. You are in a tense negotiation. The person across the table, Mr. Smith, has a perfect poker face. He speaks in a calm, measured tone. He says, "This is our final offer. We can't go any lower." The untrained observer would see his calm face and hear his firm words and believe him. But you are not untrained. You notice three things simultaneously: a cluster. As he says final offer, you see a flash of a one-sided smirk, the micro-expression of contempt. He feels he has the upper hand. While his face is calm, his hands are tightly clasped on the table, his knuckles white. This isn't a confident steeple, it's a sign of restrained stress. And the real giveaway, under the table, his feet, which had been planted firmly, are now bouncing. Happy feet. His limbic brain is screaming, "I'm excited, I'm confident, I think they're going to fall for this." His words say final offer, but his body says, "I have plenty more room to move, and I'm enjoying this." Armed with this knowledge, you confidently push back, knowing his final offer is anything but. This is the power of reading the complete channel of communication. Beyond the physical movements of the body, there are more subtle, almost invisible channels of communication that reveal a person's inner state. Let's explore the powerful languages of space, touch, and voice. Proxemics, the language of space. The study of how we use physical space is called proxemics. Everyone has an invisible bubble of personal space around them, and the way we manage this bubble speaks volumes. The size of this bubble varies by culture, but the principles are universal. When we feel comfortable with someone, we allow them closer. When we feel threatened or dislike someone, we create distance. Watch what happens when an unwelcome person joins a conversation circle. Almost imperceptibly, the others will lean back, shuffle their feet, or turn their torsos slightly away, expanding their personal space to create a barrier. Territory is another aspect of proxemics. People will mark their territory in subtle ways to signal dominance or ownership. Spreading their belongings out on a meeting table, leaning back in a chair with their hands behind their head, or placing a hand on a coworker's chair are all ways of non-verbally claiming space. A person who makes themselves physically larger is trying to appear more dominant. A person who shrinks, pulling their limbs in close, is communicating submissiveness or insecurity. Haptics, the language of touch. Touch is the most primal form of communication, and its meaning is deeply contextual. A touch can communicate support, dominance, affection, or aggression. A handshake, for instance, is a complex social ritual. A bone crusher handshake is a clear attempt at intimidation. A limp fish handshake often signals passivity or indifference. The ideal is a firm, dry handshake with eye contact. Pay attention to the politician's handshake, where they use their other hand to touch the forearm or shoulder of the person they're greeting. This is a subtle power play, turning a gesture of equality into one of slight dominance and perceived intimacy. A light, brief touch on the forearm can be a powerful tool for building rapport and increasing compliance. Studies have shown that waitresses who lightly touch their customers' arms get bigger tips. It creates a fleeting subconscious bond. However, if a touch is unwanted or lingers too long, it triggers the limbic brain's threat detector, creating immediate discomfort. Paralanguage, the story your voice tells. The final subtle channel is paralanguage. This isn't about what is said, but how it's said. The pitch, pace, tone, and volume of our voice are direct reflections of our emotional state. When we are nervous or excited, our vocal cords tighten, causing the pitch of our voice to rise. This is why a liar's voice will often crack or go up a half octave on the deceptive part of a sentence. A confident, relaxed person speaks from their diaphragm, resulting in a lower, more resonant pitch. The pace of speech is also a clue. Someone who is nervous might speak very quickly, trying to get the words out before they're caught. A deceptive person, on the other hand, might suddenly slow down their speech as their brain is working overtime to construct the lie and monitor your reaction. A sudden drop in volume, a whisper, can be a way to signal intimacy or importance, drawing the listener in. Conversely, a sudden increase in volume is a clear sign of heightened emotion, be it anger or excitement. One of the most powerful vocal tells is the vocal fry, a low, creaky sound that can happen at the end of sentences. While it has become a linguistic fad in some circles, in high-stakes situations, a sudden onset of vocal fry can indicate a drop in confidence, as if the speaker is running out of breath or certainty. Case study: the supportive friend. Your friend is telling you about their amazing new job opportunity. You say, "Wow, that's incredible. I'm so happy for you." But are you really? Let's analyze the nonverbal channels. Proxemics. As your friend tells their story, you subconsciously take a small step back, creating distance. Haptics. They reach out to hug you, but your hug is stiff, using only your arms with your torso held back. It's a mechanically correct gesture, but emotionally vacant. Paralanguage. Your words, "I'm so happy for you," are delivered in a slightly higher pitched voice than your normal speaking voice. The pace is a little too fast, and the statement ends with a slight upward inflection, making it sound more like a question. Your words are saying happiness, but your nonverbal channels are broadcasting a different story: discomfort, the step back; emotional distance, the stiff hug; and stress, or insincerity, the high-pitched voice. The true message, decoded, is envy. You might not even be consciously aware of it yourself, but your limbic brain is telling the truth. Learning to listen to these channels in others starts with learning to recognize them in yourself, and our on never ends with the spirit.
We've assembled our encyclopedia of cues. Now, let's put it all together in two of the most powerful practical applications: detecting deception and building instant rapport. The science of deception detection. First, let's be clear, there is no 100% accurate method for lie detection. However, by combining our principles, we can dramatically increase our accuracy. Deception creates cognitive load. The liar has to invent the lie, tell it convincingly, watch your reaction, and remember the story for later, all while suppressing the truth. This mental juggling act inevitably leads to leaks. Here's a framework for spotting them. Establish the baseline. As always, start with casual, non-threatening questions to see they're normal. Look for incongruence. This is the heart of lie detection. You're looking for a mismatch between the words and the nonverbals. The person says yes, while subtly shaking their head no. They say, "I'm not angry," while their jaw is clenched and their lips are pressed into a thin line. The body will always betray the lie. Watch for the post-question pause. When you ask a simple factual question like, "What do you have for breakfast?" the answer is instant. When you ask a liar, "Where were you last night?" there is often a noticeable pause. This isn't the pause of trying to remember, it's the pause of creation. Identify pacifying gestures. The moment a sensitive topic is broached, watch for the hands to go to the neck, face, or arms. This is the limbic brain reacting to the stress of the lie. Pay attention to timing. A genuine emotion is expressed spontaneously. A faked emotion is often delayed. Someone faking surprise will have a slight lag between hearing the news and their eyes widening. It looks like a misdubbed movie. Spot the cluster. Never rely on one sign. Look for a cluster of 3 to 4 deceptive indicators happening in close succession. For example, you ask a tough question. The person looks away, touches their neck, their blink rate increases, and they begin to cleanse their pant leg with their hand. That is a significant cluster of stress and anxiety, indicating a high probability of deception. Case study: the cheating spouse. A wife suspects her husband of cheating. She confronts him. Wife: "Were you with Sarah last night?" Husband pauses for a second. "No, of course not. Why would you even ask me that?" Let's break down his response. The pause, the initial delay before answering, is the creation gap. The words. He answers with a denial, no, but immediately follows it with a question. Why would you even ask me that? This is a common tactic to deflect and put the accuser on the defensive. The body language cluster. As he says no, he gives a minuscule, almost imperceptible head nod yes, a classic incongruent signal. He then blocks his eyes by rubbing them, a limbic response to not wanting to see the accusation. He uses a pacifying gesture, adjusting his shirt collar as if it suddenly feels tight, a reaction to autonomic nervous system arousal. His torso is angled slightly away from her, towards the door. He subconsciously wants to escape the conversation. The words are a denial, but the pause, the deflection, and the cluster of nonverbal cues tell the real story. The evidence is not in one clue, but in the overwhelming weight of their combined testimony. The art of rapport, the chameleon effect. Now for the flip side. We can use our knowledge not just to detect, but to connect. The fastest way to build subconscious trust is through mirroring and matching. This is also known as the chameleon effect. It involves subtly and respectfully matching the body language of the person you're with. If they lean forward, you lean forward. If they speak slowly, you slow your pace. If they gesture with their right hand, you might gesture with your left as a mirror image. This must be done subtly. If it's too obvious, it comes across as mocking. But when done correctly, the other person's limbic brain registers you as like me. It creates a feeling of safety, familiarity, and rapport. It says, we are on the same wavelength. This is an incredibly powerful tool in sales, negotiations, and any relationship where you want to build a bridge of connection. We have traveled from the inner workings of the brain to the subtle dance of human interaction. We've learned that the body cannot lie, that the truth is often written not in words, but in fleeting expressions, subconscious gestures, and silent shifts in space. Let's distill this entire masterclass down to its essential principles. First, always establish the baseline. Without knowing what's normal, you cannot possibly spot what's meaningful. Become a patient, curious observer of people in their relaxed state. Second, look for clusters. A single gesture is a word. A cluster of gestures is a full sentence. Don't jump to conclusions based on one clue. Wait for the story to emerge from a group of congruent signals. And third, always consider the context. Crossed arms can mean defensiveness, or it can mean the air conditioning is on too high. Behavior only has meaning within its specific environment. You now possess a kind of superpower, the ability to see beyond the mask, to understand the unspoken feelings, and to detect the truth when it's being concealed. But with great power comes great responsibility. This knowledge should not be used to manipulate or exploit. To do so makes you no better than the deceivers you've learned to spot. Instead, use it for a higher purpose, for understanding, for empathy, for connection. Use it to notice when a fine friend is actually struggling. Use it to build deeper, more authentic relationships. Use it to become a more effective and compassionate leader, parent, and partner. Your challenge is this. For the next 24 hours, go out into the world and simply observe. Don't interpret, don't judge, just watch. Watch the barista at the coffee shop, your colleagues in a meeting, the people on the train. Notice the silent language being spoken all around you. You will begin to see the world in a higher definition. You have been given the key to a hidden dimension of human communication. The silent conversation is happening right now. The only question is, are you finally ready to listen?